Alrighty, here we are with game one of our first match, and this hand is pretty much the nuts of what you can expect from this deck. And we're on the play, so we are obviously keeping, and our opponent mulligans. This is going to be a fast game. I'm predicting it's going to be a fast game. And our opponent, Utopia Sprawls, which makes me think of Ponza, Land Destruction, or possibly like Genesis Wave or something. And here we draw Snapcaster Mage, which isn't really going to do anything in this hand at the moment, and just set up Kiln Fiend. And our opponent doesn't do anything, which means that we have Lightning Bolt, Mutagenic Growth, and two creatures that get pumped every time you do one of those spells, so it's only a matter of casting all our spells. So the order of Mutagenic Growth is relevant. We should be slightly worried about Bolt or something along those lines. So we want to get our Swift Spear as big as possible, and then Mutagenic Growth our Swift Spear. And our opponent just concedes before we can even cast the Mutagenic Growth. And yeah, so that's pretty much the primer for all-in blue-red Battle Rage, Kiln Fiend, dead. Opponent is dead. So sideboarding against red-green, Ponza, we're assuming that's what our opponent is on. So we want Forked Bolt to go in, and that's really all we really want. We want to be able to kill Arbor Elf immediately. Spell Pierce would be okay as well. I mean, we probably bring that in. We want to just be as fast as possible, so we're looking to get rid of like Snapcaster, Bedlam Reveler, and keep everything else for sure. So we could bring in Young Pyromancers over Snapcaster, which also doesn't seem terrible, and that's pretty much our only options. So I would probably do this. I may have kept in 3 Snapcasters and not put in Young Pyromancer. Could even do this as well. Snapcaster seems okay too, though. The Young Pyromancer and Snapcaster both seem about the same. Probably want the Snapcaster a little more than the Young Pyromancer on the draw, but maybe diversifying is also worth it. So let's go on to our next game. And here we're on the draw and have a double Lightning Bolt hand with 1 land and then a bunch of 2-drops. I mean, if we hit our land, this hand would be great for a lot of reasons. We could cast Bolt turn 1 and then set up a big couple of turns with Kiln Fiend, but I think it's just a little too risky to keep that hand. I mean, there's some matchups we might consider keeping if Bolt was amazing against them, like maybe some sort of Zoo or Impact, but you should probably just be mulliganing that hand most of the time. And we bottom of the land because we already have 2 in this hand. And just get out our Swift Spear, Jataxian Probe, see our opponent's hand, which went by there, but they had an Inferno Titan and an Anger of the Gods which was their main threats. So we're basically trying to not get blown out by Anger of the Gods and kill our opponent before Inferno Titan can resolve is our main plan here. And here, Arbor Elf can untap Forest and actually ramp out Inferno Titan next turn. So we are afraid of either of these realistically. Ideally, though, we want to disrupt this Inferno Titan because it's going to be a huge issue, a giant issue, you might say. Nah. Anyways, so we haven't drawn and answered Arbor Elf yet. So we get one more chance with Manamorphose, two more chances with Manamorphose and Serum Visions, and we finally hit a Bolt, which is important for keeping us in the game. And just keep both those on top, because they both cycle and both pump up Monastery Swift Spear for free, and we're not really worried about taking damage. So we have to do that. And then we can save the mutagenic growth to protect our Monastery Swift Spear, which we are going to do because it is kind of our path to victory right now. Is ideally we hit a Tamir Battle Rage off of this chain, and we see that there's another Anger, and this was a tricky turn. I decided to just not cast this and leave up Snapcaster Mage. So there are plenty of options here. We know our opponent is likely to just be casting Anger of the Gods next turn based on their hand. They have Inferno Titan, Anger, and a land. So we can cast Snapcaster at pretty much any point in this game. We can use it to save Monastery Swift Spear from the Anger of the Gods. We can use it to end of turn bolt our opponent, or we can use it to Serum Visions and try and find something good. So one consideration would have been trying to draw into the win. Although there are very few ways we can win this turn. We could have Metamorphosed and Snapcastered mutagenic growth, so that would have been an extra 4 points of damage, which would not have been enough. So we're kind of in a bit of a tough spot. We could have YOLO'd Manamorphose and hoped to hit something like another Manamorphose and then Tamir Battle Rage. But waiting seems good as well. So I like that play of just waiting, seeing what our opponent does. They're probably going to cast Anger, and then we have to make another choice of we can either Snapcaster mutagenic growth to save our Monastery Swift Spear, or just Snapcaster Lightning Bolt, which basically does 5 immediately to the opponent, which I think is probably the best play. This is okay too. Metamorphosing in response to try and find another spell, because we can actually cast Snapcaster after the Anger resolves and then bolt our opponent. We don't have to do it at end of turn. And we drew Vapor Snag, which gives me another option. I can Snapcaster and Vapor Snag the Snapcaster, or just Vapor Snag the Swift Spear. I mean, they're basically both the same thing. this is a little bit more fancy. It's saving us 1 mana for next turn. Unfortunately, we couldn't really use that extra mana for anything because mutagenic growth does nothing. So now we have a Vapor Snag for the Inferno Titan that we can flash back with Snapcaster Mage. Unfortunately, we've drawn Thing in the Ice, which is not what we want. In terms of winning, we definitely would like to see like a Bolt or a Tamir Battle Rage or any sort of spell. And now our opponent Inferno Titans, and we Snapcaster, Vapor Snag it, and play out Thing in the Ice. Now here there's no point to play the Kiln Fiend that we drew because our opponent can Inferno Titan, kill off Kiln Fiend and Snapcaster. But again, a Kiln Fiend isn't going to be doing much against an Inferno Titan at this point in the game. And we drew another Kiln Fiend, which means we actually get to play them both, because our opponent can't just kill them, but they bring back Anger of the Gods, can anger away our board, ping our Thing in the Ice for 1, and swing for lethal with a gigantic pumping 6/6. Which means we go to game 3. And we are on the play again with a fairly mediocre hand, I would say. I mean, we have a creature that's going to benefit from our spells. We're on the play, we have 3 lands. This hand is perfectly reasonable. We're probably going to quickly flip Thing in the Ice. We don't have a Swift Spear or a Kiln Fiend, but Thing in the Ice is also very large, so we're happy with this hand, but not as good as the nut hand we had from game 1. And Serum Visions is a welcome draw. Pretty much any land there is definitely what we wanted to see. And so here we'll just play Thing in the Ice, and then we can actually just go ahead and flip it next turn if we want, and if our opponent is not going to stop us, which it doesn't look like they are, since there aren't many answers to Thing in the Ice for red-green. So we start with Metamorphose, see what we draw, and it happens to be Tamir Battle Rage, which is going to do 7 plus 2 times 2 is 18 damage, plus a bolt is lethal. So we just drew lethal. Not bad. We don't even have to bolt the Arbor Elf because it is not a horror and gets bounced. So we dash for 18, and it's turn 3 and our opponent's dead. Pretty good infect impression, if you ask me. And we also got to interact with our opponent's creatures, which I like as well.